Den with Steve and Will.
Oh, my sweet little William.
What's up, buddy?
I was really trying not to lose my shit last night,
Why?
buddy. I just don't know. I just don't know anymore. We just don't know. I just don't know what we're doing. I genuinely have no idea what the Lions' plan is anymore. I thought we had a really good understanding. I thought we were going to really build this defense. We have done everything but. What do you think?
I like it.
Talk me off the ledge.
I like it. I want you to calm down. I'm gonna talk you through it. A lot of people are freaking out.
I'm one of them.
I do think that day 2 was better for the public than day 1. For a lot of people who were freaking out in day 1. I think a lot of people I even seen just jumping off the cliff there saying, looking for other teams to support.
I'm one of them.
Listen.
No, kidding.
I know.
We're going to break it down just round 2. We'll answer some day 1 stuff if you guys have questions, but we covered that yesterday. So the Lions opened up right off the rip, 3rd pick of the day, and we take my most hated position in football, tight end Sam Laporta from Iowa.
You know what? The immediate feeling was the tight end class is so deep, and why are we going there when there's some players on the board that could address some, I won't say needs, but some enhancements to our defense, or even offensively. There are some offensive weapons out there that maybe could have helped us out. But I totally get why they do it. And after watching all the press conferences and listening to those guys speak about who they are as individuals, all the behind the scenes things that we don't get to see, I completely understand why he made that pick. Just speaking to him right now, I'll say that what Brad Holmes said about him and what I saw when I watched film on him, he's just a tough, gritty guy. He's able to stay in, connected to the tackle and help in the run game or get a release from there. And he can also branch out into that slot position, and he can beat a slot corner or a linebacker. So I think it's an added weapon for Jared Goff. It's not sexy, but I like it. You need those guys.
Here's my issue. I'm not gonna lie to you, William. I'm scarred from Brandon Pettigrew, Eric Ebron, TJ Hawkinson. I'm scarred from drafting tight ends on this team and having none of them work out. And I understand this is a new regime, new coaching staff, all that stuff. But when it comes to the tight end, I feel like if you don't have a Travis Kelce or one of those types of players, I just don't see the point of it. Can Sam Laporta be that? Maybe. I guess we have to wait and see, but I personally don't think so. I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah, I think that obviously he there's only one Kelce. I mean, people are talking about Dalton Kincaid, like he could be the next type of guy that could be that type of dynamic tight end, pass catching tight end. But there's only one Travis Kelce. Kyle Pitts tried to be something like that, and he did absolutely nothing. So we need a guy that just can contribute, and they were looking for a piece to their puzzle, and I think they got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to put my personal feelings aside, I mean, I like the style of play that he has. I mean, he's a rough, gritty kid. He can catch. He runs hard after he makes the catch. But I just don't know. When I look at tight end, I saw a couple other guys that I would just personally prefer. So, I mean, I know it all comes down to Brad, and I trust him. But I saw Darnell Washington out there.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Mayer still out there. I would have preferred one of those two. But if Brad saw something in Laporta, I trust him. I'm not going to question his decision. It's just tight end for me is not a position of need for this team.
Right.
So I think also why I was upset is because our second pick, this is who I wanted with the first pick. And I kind of calmed down a little bit once we got him. Our second pick in the second round, we ended up with your guy, Brian Branch.
Absolutely. So if you know me, I had my guys list, and there was a couple of guys that I had just flat out football crushes on. And we talked about it in our earlier podcast that who are some guys that we would be upset if one of this group of 5 didn't end up being a Lion. Brian Branch was one of those guys. I wanted Devon Witherspoon or Brian Branch. We got Brian Branch, who I think might even be better because you can line him up at safety, you can line him up at nickel corner, or you can line him up on the outside. He has so much versatility, and he's going to bring that same, if not more, of a physical presence to this defense. So you're telling me we're going to put Captain Jack in there, and you know what my concerns were with him? They had nothing to do with his physical capabilities. He's a stack linebacker that he's going to block. He's going to shed blocks. He's going to be able to read and dissect plays. And Brian Branch is going to be out there flying around. So if we're talking about getting physical with CJ Gardner-Johnson, Kirk, I won't even get into it. We'll roll it up later, but that's a great pick for us.
Yeah, I really like Brian Branch. So for everyone who was talking about how we reached on Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in round 1, we're going to negate your argument because Brian Branch was projected to go in the first round. So we might have reached on those 2 guys, but he slid to us in round 2. So let's call that a push. He was someone we could have took at 12 and I would have been happy.
That's right. Same.
So yeah, Brian Branch, solid defensive back. He can play anywhere on the field. He can stack in the box, help with the run, help with the pass. If you needed him to, and we were desperate, we have some injuries. You could put him out there at corner for a couple games.
100%.
Not a full-time corner, but positional duties if you need him to. So then after Brian Branch, oh my God, it just doesn't get much better. We got old man Hendon Hooker who's coming to town with his wheelchair, his walker, his crutches, his one knee. Buddy, I'm just not happy with I'm just flat out not happy with this one.
I'm complete opposite. I went back and watched the film. He's another guy that we were talking about early in the draft. I told you I liked him. I liked him in the second round. We got him late. Once they started talking about him being potentially the 3rd best quarterback and him going up into the first round, we talked about it in our last podcast right before the draft started that we didn't want to see him in the first round, but getting him late, we just got a great football player. We got someone when he comes back healthy and he sits for half of a season. If something happens, I'm not looking for him to take over Jared Goff's job halfway through the season. But if he's healthy, Goff gets hurt, we have a guy that can step in and be productive. He's an older player, like you said, but he's got a lot of football behind him. One of the things Bill Parcells said about quarterbacks all the time was he wanted at least 46 starts out of them. And if you had that, you were going to have a guy that could be productive immediately. Hendon Hooker is a guy that can just get on the football field and do everything that you need him to do. He makes decisions very quickly. And I'm going to kind of do a roll up of what I think the pieces of this puzzle is before we get off of here. But I just think he's another one that fits exactly what the vision is for this team. I'm excited about it.
I told you my only concern with him is his age of being 46 years old. It has nothing to do with his play style. I like it. He's got a good arm. He's a little bit mobile. He's accurate, patient. I like all of his qualities as a quarterback, but the fact that he's coming in by the time he's ready to play and take over for Goff, if that's the direction we're heading, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that's what I'm calling for. If we let Jared Goff go, he's going to be 28 years old as a starter, and we're only going to have him under contract for 1 more year. So why not just hold on to Jared Goff? That's all I'm saying is I just don't like his age. It has nothing to do with him as a player. I love his style of play as a quarterback.
I get it. I just don't think the price tag will be too high on him, looking to re-sign him either.
Well, no, he's so old, you could just pay him with shots of Jell-O.
Unreal.
I mean, let's be honest here, William.
Unbelievable.
Give him some grits and Jell-O. That's all we can pay him.
This guy is going to be a great football player for us, man. Whether it's backup duty, knowing that you got a guy that can come in and just maybe take this team to another level, or at least keep us, steady where we're at. We're not going to miss a beat. Or a guy that could, ultimately take over. Either way it goes, he buys us time. Next year is also a great QB draft. So say this whole thing goes in terribly, we can go get a QB next year. So
you want to know where this team's going to save an absolute ton of money, and I mean like billions of dollars.
Talk to me.
Is Hendon Hooker won't have to wear a mouthpiece because he's so old. He can just wear his dentures out.
We're done here. Let's move on. Let's move on. You're out of hand.
What do you mean? I mean, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. So after Hendon Hooker, the 3rd round, pick 33 was a compensatory pick. I think that Arizona had. I don't know if it was from a trade. So many trades yesterday, I can't keep track.
Yeah.
We take Broderick Martin, a D tackle out of Western Kentucky.
I'm not going to tell you a lie. I had to immediately go start digging into this guy when we drafted him. He wasn't one of those guys that I was like, ooh. and I could give you a rundown on him. But when I went to go watch the little bit of film that I could scrounge up, because there's not a lot of film on him, and then listening to Brad Holmes talk and watching his interview, I'm excited about what he can do for us and how he was described and what I saw in a little bit of film. This guy's huge.
Yeah.
He's 330, 340. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", and he can run. It's crazy to see a guy that big be able to move around like that. He is raw. You see him do some freakish things, and then you see him, kind of bad with his hands and bad with his feet, and he's not being very explosive all the time. So I don't know if that is just being a huge man, and he's he might need to be one of those guys that's a rotational guy. But we did sign Benito Jones, and then we still got Aleem McNeil and Levi. But Benito Jones I mentioned because he's another guy that's 330. So this might be one of those things where we put those guys both out there. If we just want to make a wall, we now can put two guys out there that are 230, 240 and just clogging up things, in those gaps. We got to stop the run this year.
Yeah, I like his size. We really got some beef in the middle. I would have liked to have seen someone or, get another defensive end to kind of rotate in and out with Kaminsky and Hutch. But I did watch one. I mean, I'm not going to claim to be like a huge Western Kentucky Hilltoppers fan, but I do recall watching one game last year when Western Kentucky played Michigan State, and all eyes were on Bailey Zappi. I do remember them mentioning this kid and how big he is.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's probably the extent of my knowledge. But just looking at his film, looking at his height and weight, I mean, I think he's definitely going to help in those short yardage situations.
Right. I agree.
He's never going to get 5-6 sacks, but he'll be a presence in the middle and hold on some offensive linemen unless some other guys run free.
I'll tell you what, in a world where they start double teaming Aiden Hutchinson, I think he could be a guy, because he just wait till you see him, man. If you haven't saw him yet, he can run. So if he starts being a guy that's learning how to use his hands, he might be a guy that gets some of those cleanup sacks from guys, teams coming out and shifting their blocking towards Aiden Hutchinson, kind of like James Houston, just reaping the benefits of having a bunch of dogs out there.
So overall, what do you think we're looking at? What kind of grade would you give the Lions as it stands today? And I know we're not done. We have 2 more picks today. Who knows what happens? Who knows who gets traded? I'm personally going to say, I'm going to be fair and say like a B-.
See, so it's kind of unfair what I'm about to say, but I give him a B+. I really want to give him an A. It wouldn't be an A+, but I really want to give him an A, and here's why. Brad Holmes, a lot of this is going to be contingent on how smart is Brad Holmes truly. Brad Holmes took this draft, said, forget everybody. I'm going to do what I want to do, what I believe is right, and I'm going to draft the guys that I believe fit the mold of what I'm trying to do. Last night in his press conference, he said, and I quote, we drafted a lot of good football players, but first and foremost, we drafted good humans. And I'm not looking, I understand, and he moved on to say he's not looking to just draft guys that are great guys and can't play football, but maybe there were some more romantic guys out there. When we were on the board at 6, there were Jalen Carters, there were Tyree Wilsons, but if maybe you get those guys in the locker room and they're cancerous, maybe you get those guys in the locker room and they don't fit what we're trying to do, and they start to just decrease on the mentalities that we're trying to build in this organization. Brad Holmes got 5 guys that they're all the same type of guys. And it kind of blew my mind when he started talking about Hendon Hooker. When he said he went to go watch Hendon Hooker play, he said the first thing that jumped off the screen to him was how violent he played, how violent he was in the run game, how violent he was in a pass game, the sense of urgency that he moved with, his command, and who he was as a human being. When Tennessee kicked the extra point, he was standing at the sideline. He wasn't one of those guys that went straight to the sideline like Will Levis does and forgets about, the guys that are kicking the extra points that you need to win games. He's slapping everybody high fives. He's talking to his defense and talking them up. He's just a guy that wants to win. He wants to do it the right way, and he cares about the guys on his team. Brian Branch, he's talked about how physical Brian Branch was. He talked about when they did the interview with him, he looked him straight in the eye, and he was one of those guys that you could feel his presence in the room. Is one of those guys that he's not just talking it. He's a physical, hardworking human every single day that wants to be one of the greatest defensive backs, ever to play this game. Sam Laporta, he said, was a gritty guy, and he fit that Iowa way. And Jack Campbell said something that I really liked. He said at Iowa, their linebacker room had this thing called mutt mentality. And what mutt mentality was, or what mutt mentality means to him, he says their linebackers were a group of guys that were passed on by these big schools like Bama and, that get all of these 5-star recruits and all that. They pass on those guys, and the other guys are those, pretty little puppies that are purebred puppies that everybody wants. We're just the mutts on the, that are on the side of the road that are all dirty and mucked up, and that everybody's passing on. We're going to go out with a chip on our shoulder and show them why they shouldn't have passed on us. When you get a group of 5 guys like that, I believe in winners win. I believe in hard workers work hard. And I think that Brad Holmes is betting his GM status that he's gained on guys like that working out. And we'll see if he's right, man. But I'm excited about getting those types of pieces to this team.
Yeah, I like every player we've drafted. Like I said, I don't know what the future holds for Hendon Hooker. So at the end of the day, if my faith has to go into Brad Holmes, who's nailed 2 drafts, I guess I just have to put my faith in him. And I kind of compared it to, I'm going to talk hockey for a second. Not long. I'm just going to say, I remember when Steve Yzerman came to town and he took over the GM of the Red Wings. Everyone said the same thing, like, dude, this is the best GM in hockey. You guys will be there soon. He knows what he's doing. His first draft pick was Moritz Seider, and everyone was questioning it. And he ended up winning the Calder Cup. He's one of the focal faces of the Red Wings. So I guess I just got to learn how to put my faith in Brad Holmes. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been scarred over these terrible GMs we've had in this town for a long time. So
it's understandable.
I just got to see what the future holds for Hendon Hooker and see what his role is going to be. I don't see him being that 46 game starter. I just personally don't. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But right now today, I don't see it because he's going to be 34 years old soon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but also I think that Brad Holmes is doing the best that he can with what he has on the table. The ability to be able to get, okay, so we got Brian Branch out there, right, who is a guy who was a day 1 guy. We get him on day 2.
Yeah, I would have been happy with him at pick 12.
Yeah.
Or 18.
You get Jahmyr Gibbs, who I believe is the best running back of the draft. I truly believe that he's the best running back of the draft. If you were telling me with this draft board, we could go draft a Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara with the information that we have about those type of guys, or we could go out and get a Bijan Robinson. I'm going with one of those guys. You know what I mean? A guy that can catch it out of the backfield, line up at slot receiver. I didn't realize how often Bama lined him up at slot receiver. So I think Ben Johnson is going to have a field day. We might see David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs on the field at the same time while J-Mo's out.
Jahmyr Gibbs playing quarterback. Who knows?
You never know what Ben Johnson might do.
He might punt. He might hold kicks. Yeah. He might be the place kicker. Yeah. He can do it all.
So we could have arguably got the best safety in the draft, the best running back in the draft, the best linebacker in the draft. Like I'm excited to see if Brad Holmes is a genius or he's an idiot.
And also he might have had Sam Laporta ranked higher than Dalton Kincaid. We don't know, but I mean, overall, yeah, not a bad draft, not a overly flashy draft like we've had in the past, but I do think every single player that we've drafted so far is already a contributor, except for Hendon Hooker, obviously. But also, I think we're all wrapped up. I will say our draft challenge, I'm thinking we're looking at a 3-way tie. I can't remember who it is. I think it's Caitlin Barco, Cameron Carodi, and one other person.
Westland. I think Westland.
Yeah, so we'll spin the wheel. You guys are going to get whoever it is going to get a $50 gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings. That's what ended up winning the vote. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. I think we're looking at a 3-way tie, though. I'll have to go back and double check. Anything else, William?
We got 2 more picks today. Then tonight we're gonna do a wrap up of the whole draft. So be looking out for that a little bit later tonight. Other than that, man, that's it. Go Lions.
Yeah, maybe we'll see you guys tonight if we do live. If not, our video will be posted either tonight or tomorrow. So we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.
Peace. You're in the Detroit Den with Steve and Will.
Where am I supposed to go from here? Okay. Really, I have no idea. All I know is